That was fucking awesome. The Mortuary Collection is a Shudder original horror comedy directed by Ryan Spindell. Set in an ambiguous decade, a young girl goes to apply for a job at a mortuary, where she and a creepy old mortician share horrific stories and dark secrets. To give away any of the stories would be to ruin the movie. I went into the movie knowing nothing, and I'm glad I did. It's old school horror fun, and not a single story will let you down. So let's just grade this thing. The cinematography is one of the first things you'll notice, and one thing that you'll hear about over and over in other reviews. The cinematography is by Caleb Heyman and Eli Smolkin, and they kicked ass. The movie looks damn good. I've been complaining about the fad of orange and teal along with shallow depth of field. This movie utilizes both of these cinematography fads the right way. The lighting is insanely good. At least to my eye, it looks as though they lit with orange and blue lights rather than color correcting the movie to be orange and teal. For example, the key light will be orange and the hair or fill light will be blue. The effect is beautiful. Returning to the shallow depth of field that I've been complaining about, this movie still has deep focus and more importantly keeps everything in focus. In contrast, I recently watched Mandy. I streamed the movie, which could have caused some of the noise. However, it appeared they used a camera that could not handle the dynamic range they required. The image was often underlit, distorted, and noisy. This is not the case here. Even the darkest images are crisp and clear. In other words, if you're at all interested in cinematography or filmmaking, this movie will make you drool. It's just downright gorgeous. The acting is also near perfect. In fact, I can't think of any reason not to call it perfect. The mortician, named Montgomery Dark, is played by Clancy Brown, who you may know better as Captain Hadley from The Shawshank Redemption, or Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob. He's really the big takeaway here, as he embodies the creepy old storyteller so well that I feel like he should get his own anthology show. That's my dog crying for me. Oh, that was the sound of my dog grabbing the mic with his paw. Anyway, he makes his voice so deep and creepy that you'll wish you could have him read you scary stories. If he did this voice, he'd fit right in with narrators like Vincent Price and Boris Karloff. The music is by the Mondo Boys, and from what I've been able to find, you can only hear it on their website. They don't just give a fun, classical horror score, but they also bring some great songs into the mix. The Mondo Boys really need to release this soundtrack so that I can listen to it on Apple Music or YouTube Music, because I'd listen to it over and over. If you like movie soundtracks, you should check this one out because it's just great. The critics' response to the movie was overwhelmingly positive, with a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. The critics' consensus reads, "The rare anthology that maintains a consistently high level of quality, the Mortuary Collection is a must-see undertaking for horror fans." I could not agree more. I also always like to talk about if the movie is entertaining in a traditional sense. Put more simply, is it entertaining to a wide audience? Weirdly, I can't see this movie making it into theaters. Anthology movies always seem to get looked over and brushed aside. But this one shouldn't. It's an all-around good movie that is clearly trying to recreate old-school scary stories. The result is, in my opinion, extremely entertaining, whether you're a horror fan or not. I also mentioned earlier that the movie's time is very ambiguous. They never specify when any of the stories are taking place, and there seems to be elements of multiple decades woven in to create a new decade made specifically to set a perfect, fun horror movie mood. I always talk about the story last and give 1 point for if it got the job done and 1 for if I liked it. I'm sure you've guessed I'm giving this movie both points. It aims to tell fun horror stories and it blows that target away. At first I was confused by the ambiguous time. The movie opens with a boy riding a bike and I thought 80s. Then he rides by vehicles from the 50s and 60s. But once you realize this movie is just trying to create an atmosphere that reminds you of the horror genre, there's nothing left to complain about. It made me feel like a little kid reading Goosebump books. Good scares and a great time. Final score, 10 out of 10. The Mortuary Collection is a Shudder original, so if you're interested, you'll need a Shudder account to watch it. This was the first Shudder original movie that I've watched, and I hope the others are this good. To wrap this up, I'd like to tell a story about my brother Liam for the second video in a row. Recently, he and I were trying to pick a movie, and I kept picking horror movies. He said, "I don't really like to watch horror movies because when they're done, you're always sad." This is not that kind of horror movie. It's not overly dark, in fact, quite the opposite. It's very humorous, often campy, a little meta, and always fun. That's something that I feel a lot of horror movies forget. You want to be scared, but you want to be scared because it's fun. Too often, horror movies try so hard to scare you that they end up being more disturbing than anything else. This movie remembers to have fun. This is what it looks like when I have to record a video. Thanks for watching. Or listening, whatever. These videos are kind of made for you to listen or watch. But yeah, bye.